The philosopher-kings lied. Why Enlightenment was always a scam. They told us that reason would set us free, that the Enlightenment was the dawn of human liberation, a time when superstition was banished, truth was uncovered, and progress became inevitable. But what if the entire narrative was a lie? What if the so-called Age of Enlightenment was never about liberating the human mind, but about replacing one form of control with another? Not divine tyranny this time, but intellectual imperialism, so elegant, so logical, that it went unquestioned for centuries. The ancient dream of philosopher-kings wasn't a fantasy. It was a blueprint for domination. Plato imagined them as wise rulers, guardians of truth. But behind the poetic veil was a darker logic, a hierarchy of minds. Those who knew would rule. The rest, to be managed, educated, disciplined. From this seed grew an elite ideology, that truth belongs to the few, and that freedom is only safe in the hands of the rational. Reason was no longer a tool for liberation. It was a weapon of classification. And once that classification became policy, the world split in two. The thinkers and the thoughtless, the civilized and the savage, the rational and the emotional. The Enlightenment didn't kill dogma, it gave it a new costume. Priests were replaced by scientists, sacred texts by peer-reviewed journals, revelation by reductionism. But the hierarchy remained intact. The church taught us to fear hell. The Enlightenment taught us to fear ignorance. Either way, fear ruled. You were still a subject, only now the catechism was data, the liturgy was logic, and the God was the human brain, enthroned in sterile laboratories and lecture halls. The mind was sanctified, but the soul was quietly executed. This was not the death of tyranny, it was its rebirth. A tyranny not of chains and swords, but of graphs and grammar. A tyranny that punished not with fire, but with invisibility, silencing what could not be systematized. Thinkers like Rousseau claimed that man was born free, yet everywhere in chains. But they ignored the new chains forming, in classrooms that praised obedience to abstract principles over embodied wisdom. Locke wrote of liberty while investing in human bondage. Kant spoke of moral imperatives while building hierarchies of race and reason. These weren't contradictions. They were expressions of a deeper truth. That Enlightenment thought, despite its proclamations, was never about universal emancipation. It was about order, clarity, control. And those who didn't fit the model, those who sang instead of argued, who felt instead of calculated, were rendered unfit for freedom. It gave us the bureaucrat, the technician, the colonial governor. It gave us policies that dissected populations, measured skulls, categorized souls. It gave us the gentle tyranny of paperwork, the soft violence of being statistically insignificant. The colonizer no longer needed to bring guns, he brought graphs. And with enough data, you could disappear an entire people from the narrative. Whole cultures were reduced to footnotes. Lives became case studies. Empires were justified not by divine right, but by the calculus of progress. Universities became cathedrals of this new order. Philosophy departments that worshipped logic but ignored lived experience. Social sciences that studied the world as if it were a lab rat maze. Knowledge became a gatekeeping tool. Only those who spoke its dialect were permitted to enter the conversation. Indigenous knowledge systems were mocked. Women's intuition was dismissed. Black wisdom was pathologized. The Enlightenment pretended to be neutral, but neutrality is the mask power wears when it wants to seem benevolent. And beneath that mask was a smirk. You were told that to be enlightened is to think clearly, but what they meant was to think like them, to amputate your wildness, to replace mystery with mechanism, to trade awe for analysis. They taught you to explain everything, and in doing so, they robbed you of the capacity to truly see. Vision was replaced by observation. Meaning was replaced by measurement. This is the scam. You were promised freedom but sold a blueprint for submission, not to a monarch, not to a deity, but to an ideology, one that measured your worth by your conformity to rationality, one that called your suffering irrational if it didn't fit the model, one that sterilized the soul in the name of scientific progress. You were told to master your emotions, but never taught to understand them. You were told to suppress your instincts, but never invited to learn their language. You were taught to fear the dark, when the dark was where your power had been hiding all along. And what has this rational empire given us? A world of experts who cannot feel, systems that cannot care, governments that calculate suffering like spreadsheets, technological marvels built atop spiritual voids. We became data points, indexed, tracked, optimized, and yet, with all this knowledge, we are lonelier than ever. More anxious, more medicated, more numb. We have infinite information, but no integration. We are surrounded by devices, but disconnected from divinity. The Enlightenment mind promised clarity but delivered alienation. It promised order but birthed bureaucracy. It promised truth but enforced conformity. And when it failed, it blamed you for not thinking correctly. It said you needed more discipline, more study, more tests. But what you really needed was permission to feel again. But what if it wasn't your fault? What if the model itself was broken? There is another way. Begin by betraying the myth of the rational savior. Question the supremacy of those who claim to know what's best for you because they've read more books, worn more robes, collected more degrees. Wisdom isn't always articulate. Sometimes it weeps, sometimes it screams, sometimes it is silent, and sometimes it is written in the tension of your spine, the tightness in your jaw, the rage that lives in your stomach. Remember what the Enlightenment erased, that knowledge can come from the body, that truth can be danced, sung, carved, felt, that ancestors can speak in dreams, that not everything needs to be explained to be real, that mystery is not a problem, it is a presence, that your feelings are not mistakes, they are messages, and they are waiting for you to stop apologizing for them. Decolonize your intellect, unenlighten yourself. Tear the map they handed you, the one that always leads back to their gates, the one that makes you smaller every time you follow it. Reclaim the ancient ways of knowing, story, rhythm, shadow, sensation. Sit with what cannot be solved. Worship what cannot be measured. Trust what logic cannot touch. And protect it from the sterilizing light of false enlightenment. And above all, feel, because until you do, you'll still be ruled by the ghost of the philosopher-king. And no ruler, however rational, can lead you home. Not to the home where you pay rent and file taxes, but the one inside, the one they tried to demolish with footnotes and frameworks. So let reason take its place, not as emperor, but as servant. Let it bow to the mystery. Let it kneel before the parts of you it cannot name. Let it finally serve the soul it once tried to silence. The Enlightenment didn't liberate you. It just put you in a cleaner cage. But now you see the bars. And that's where real freedom begins. If this shattered something you've long suspected, share it. Send it to someone whose instincts were silenced by intellect. Like this video. Subscribe to Awaken Beyond Reason. And hit the bell, because the algorithm serves those who refuse to sleep. Comment below. What part of your soul did you once call irrational, but now know was simply uncolonized?